Hi, everyone. We're going to give everyone maybe a minute to jump on. All right, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Grace McAdin. I am a senior management analyst for development services and the planning side. I'm presenting tonight on accessory dwelling units or ADUs. I've been doing a little bit of a road show, so we've been to all of the neighborhood advisory board meetings, and then this is the last of our 3 virtual community meetings on accessory dwelling units. The last couple meetings, there's 2 NABs or neighborhood advisory boards that didn't meet in February and they won't meet in March. So I will wait to go to those in April. We're hoping to go to Planning Commission next month or in March, and then City Council in April just for feedback. So this is kind of the very start of our roadshow for this draft ordinance. And then just so everyone understands the format of this meeting, I'll go ahead and go through my presentation and then I'll take some questions at the end. Any questions or concerns, please feel free to provide them also in writing just so that we do get them on record as public comment. All right, so just starting from the very beginning, we've been talking about accessory dwelling units for a very long time, but I know that some people are just joining now, or maybe they're coming in kind of after the fact. So I just wanted to back it up. What is an accessory dwelling unit? It's a secondary housing unit that shares a lot with a larger primary home. So they're accessory in nature. You have to have that large primary home on site in order to establish an ADU. And I like this image on the right because it shows maybe some different depictions of what an accessory dwelling unit might look like. I think a lot of us think of that typical detached ADU in the backyard, but they might be a garage conversion. They might be above the garage. Maybe they're in the attic. So there's some of these ADUs that you might not even see on the street level. And then, as I said before, this is just a draft. So it's a draft ordinance. It can change, it can morph. City Council has the final say, and it will go to City Council. We're hoping maybe in late summer for adoption. But that's why it's so important to get your comments or concerns in at this point so that we can provide them to council and justify some changes if we need any. So all input on the front end is very much appreciated so that maybe it prevents so many people coming at the very end at the adoption meeting to say, we don't like this. You should totally change course. All right, so the first part of creating a draft is we thought, where should these ADUs be allowed? Because they're in nature accessory to detached single family homes, we thought let's allow them anywhere single family detached house is allowed. That seems to be consistent with other jurisdictions. It's also consistent with what was proposed in previous drafts that were brought forward. So that was where we started. All of those zoning districts you can see on the screen there are where we allow for single family detached homes. The next thing we wanted to look at was lot size. So a lot of jurisdictions have a minimum lot size where an accessory dwelling unit can be established. Council directed us to start at that 9,000 square foot lot size. I've actually received a lot of pushback on this standard. People think it's too large. I think even myself, when I'm thinking of 9,000 square feet, I have no idea where in the city of Reno, maybe those 9,000 square foot lots occur. And so I wanted to provide some examples of areas maybe we all know so that we can start to get situated with how large is 9,000 square feet? Where are we going to see that? And maybe where would we see these ADUs established if this draft moves forward? And so this is on the corner of California and Arlington. You can see these lots are in an infill area, so maybe where we'd want to see ADUs. But all of those lots on your screen, with the exception of one, are under 9,000 square feet. So based on this draft, they would not be able to build an ADU. The only lot that is above 9,000 square feet is actually a commercial lot. So just kind of an idea of where, what types of lots would see these ADUs. Here's another example. This is north of Plum. You can see Marsh on the left-hand side of your screen. These are definitely some larger homes. So you can see these 3 lots that I've highlighted are above 9,000 square feet. So maybe this is an area, like I said, if this draft moved forward, that they would be allowed to establish ADUs. And the last example, this is University Ridge neighborhood, just north of the university. You can see Socrates on the left-hand side of your screen. Again, these are some larger lots. There will be some lots that are under 9,000 square feet. There's also some slope considerations to take into account, but you can see most of these lots are above 9,000 square feet. And then here's a map just to kind of really reiterate where these 9,000 square foot lots are. You can see there's a lot of green. So everything in green is over 9,000 square feet and everything in red is under 9,000 square feet. So there is quite a bit of green, but in those infill areas, maybe Wells Avenue or the Northwest, where we already have that walkability or we're promoting maybe some density, you can see that they would not allow for an ADU based on today's draft. So just something to think about, something for our council to think about if they wanted us to move forward with the 9,000 square feet, or if they'd like us to make that smaller. The next thing we wanted to look at for a draft ordinance is the number and size. So most jurisdictions require or allow for 1 accessory dwelling unit per lot. There are some one-offs that say unlimited ADUs or maybe, a handful of ADUs per lot. We thought that might be too much too soon. And so we said, let's start with 1 ADU per lot. As far as size, setbacks, height, we already have so many standards in place for accessory structures. And so we didn't really want to reinvent the wheel here. We already mitigate impacts for accessory structures. And so we said ADUs will follow the standards of other accessory structures. So a shed or a guest quarters, those already have height considerations, setbacks, so on and so forth. The ADUs per this draft would follow those standards. With the one exception, council did not want ADUs to be built on the property line. So there are a lot of zoning districts where you can build on the property line, primary structure and accessory structure. And council said we don't like that for ADUs. And so we said no 0-foot setbacks for ADUs. This image on the right, I like as well. You can see kind of like the image at the beginning of the slide, just how a neighborhood will look or would potentially look with ADUs. You can see that this particular neighborhood still maintains its single family character. Not all ADUs will look the same, so it won't be every ADU in the back just looking like a cottage or every ADU being a garage conversion. This kind of shows you might notice some, you might not notice some, and it still looks like that single family neighborhood that we're all familiar with. Parking and design. Parking came up as a big concern for a lot of people on the survey we did last year. And so we thought, okay, let's make sure that if people are going to build ADUs, they have parking on site. And so we required 1 off-street parking space per ADU. So if you want to build an ADU, you have to show us somewhere on site that you can provide parking that does not interfere with the primary structure's parking. So both your primary structure and accessory dwelling unit will have to meet their parking standards. And then as far as design and compatibility, for other accessory structures, they have to meet some compatibility findings as far as materials, colors, roof pitch. So we carried those forward for ADUs to say you have to somewhat look like your primary structure. You don't have to look exactly like it, but you can't also look, stick out like a sore thumb. So if your primary structure has brick siding, you don't have to have a total brick ADU, but maybe you have incorporate brick in certain elements. All right, so those were the standards that we put into the draft. It's pretty small. It's some small edits. One thing I would like to, also just highlight is that although ADUs aren't currently allowed in the city, guest quarters are, and the only difference between a guest quarters or an accessory dwelling unit is that full kitchen. So right now, you could build a guest quarters with a bathroom, a bedroom, and it could be built on the property line in some zoning districts. The only difference, if this ordinance moves forward, is that you could now build one with a full kitchen. So just something to keep in mind. Like I said, we did the NAB meetings this month. I will be going to the last two NAB meetings in April if you'd like to see this presentation in person, or if all of a sudden you think of some more questions you'd like to ask. This is the last of our virtual community meetings. And then we're hoping to hit Planning Commission next month. The second meeting next month, I believe it's March 26th. It will be on our website, and then we'll hit City Council in April or May. And then we're hoping for adoption in late summer of 2025. So this first round where we go to Planning Commission and City Council are just for feedback. So like I said, please stay tuned, provide your comments. I'll provide all of these public comments to City Council in some sort of spreadsheet format. And then anything that's repeating. So we've gotten some comments, a couple comments on lot size being too large for a minimum, and then some comments on short-term rentals, and people have concerns around those. And so I'll highlight those to council and just provide what specifically those concerns were for the neighborhood. Here's my information. So this is the last virtual meeting, but I'm always available via phone number or email. If you have any ideas, I've been getting a lot of calls of people saying, I've come from a jurisdiction that regulated ADUs really well, or they regulated them terribly. So please share your stories with me. It just helps make a, better ordinance in the long run. And that's pretty much it. So I pretty quick presentation. I wanted to leave most of the time for questions, comments, anything like that. So if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. You can type it in the chat, and hopefully I can answer it. Or if you have any concerns, feel free to provide those as well. Let's see. I'm not seeing any hands raised. Let me check the chat. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. Maybe it's just the last meeting. But like I said, if any questions come up, concerns, feel free to email me, call me, and I can help you there. But other than that, I'll give you guys the rest of your evening back. Thank you so much for coming. Hopefully you have a great rest of your week.